outside of the overpower mode. Let's see what's going on.
Do expect to add it to PvE content in the near future. A new
I didn't really talk about overpower in PvE. I don't think it really matters too much on the PvE side because I think it already exists. Um, I think it exists in the form of hard static characters and raids. You know, when we saw the top difficulty mode, they had 100% health and stats and things, and it didn't really make a difference. So I'll be curious to see if it's additional or if that's what they mean by it. I'm not going to read too much into that right now.
raid is coming to Marvel Strike Force, the Chaos Raid. There's a lot to cover here, and there's some fundamental changes on what you may know about raids in your time.
I think the Chaos Raid will be the introduction of the Vigilante team. So I'm very hesitant to upgrade anything raid related until we know more, but I'm also hoarding, so bear with me.
I'm playing Marvel Strike Force, so pay close attention to these details. The first thing you need to know is we'll be sunsetting the Ultimus raids and potentially more green energy raids in the future. This new Chaos Raid will be for all players.
Now they said green energy raids. Is that our Orcus raid? Is that what they call that? Yeah, okay, so that's the Orcus raid.
We'll get to how that will work in just a minute. There will be two different maps for the Chaos Raids, Chaotic Storm and Chaotic Storm Omega.
So just like
Let's
the
talk
Orcus.
about Chaotic Storm first. Chaotic Storm raids will start and only allow for the default difficulty to be chosen. There's a lane for every member in your alliance. Because these are going to replace the Ultimus raids, they're designed for level 20 players that first unlock raids in the default difficulty. The reason why there will be a lane per person is that the Chaotic Storm raid map is designed to have more rewards in the nodes themselves than in the completion rewards for your alliance. This is for alliances that may not have 24 members, or maybe they just want to play at their own pace. This raid will feature the individual raid difficulty selector, otherwise known as IRD. So let's take a minute to explain how that works.
So he didn't really tell us if Storm is going to have more reward or less rewards than Omega. That's interesting. So I don't know if that means you could potentially play by yourself and be fine, or if you were down a member and be fine. I wish they would have gone in a little more detail there.
New individual difficulty raid selector, IRD for short, will allow you to completely customize your experience for each node of the chaos.
So this difficulty selector is the thing they talked about in the January blog where they told us what was coming.
Chaotic Storm raids. That's right, you can now change the difficulty of each and every node, including the bosses on Chaotic Storm. You won't be able to do this for all nodes on Chaotic Storm Omega, but we'll get to that here in a second. Let's look at how IRD.
So you won't be able to change it for all nodes in Omega. That's interesting. So they're saying that it sounds like it's almost just a new player feature, more so than any player feature, which maybe makes it a little less exciting.
Works. As you can see here, the node I have selected gives me the option to choose a difficulty for that node. Based on the difficulty you select, the enemy levels will change, as well as the rewards you can earn from the node. Whether you just want to play with your friends who are in a lower alliance.
I want to make it very clear, he's hiding the rewards. So that's very interesting. He only showed the first one, and then he scrolled down and is now not scrolling back up.
In you, or you just want a tougher challenge, IRD will allow you to change your individual experience without having to change alliances. Let's talk about some of the nuances of IRD in more detail.
So you notice how they had Overpower 2? I think that they're using that tool as the scaler for the raid instead of the original scaler, which was just hard baking it into the characters.
If you choose a difficulty that's too challenging for you, you can retreat or quit the battle and reset the node and choose another difficulty. Please be aware that if you play through the node and lose, or choose the quit option, the damage dealt to your characters will remain regardless of if you reset the node. Anyone in your lane can change the difficulty level of a node if you can't complete it. No need to wait on the person who attempted the node originally. When you select a difficulty of one node, that difficulty will remain on each node you go to attempt. You will not have to choose a difficulty for every node. However, you can choose the difficulty on each node if you so choose. As always, feel free to join our official Discord server, discord.gg/MarvelStrikeForce, if you have any questions about IRD, as it is a brand new feature that will change the way you can play raids in Marvel Strike Force. Now let's talk about Chaotic Storm Omega, which will work slightly different to the normal Chaotic Storm. Like previous raids, your alliance leadership will select a difficulty to start on, with all difficulties being available at this launch.
That's huge. So not having to wait an entire week to get to the difficulty that we want to be on is a good change. I don't know why they always did that, but that's a good step in the right direction. Because a lot of us are preparing now, or at least hoarding enough to be able to jump into the difficulty we want to play on day one or shortly after.
Of the new raid. The rewards will also use the more traditional model of raids, which you'll earn more rewards based on the completion percentage of your alliance. Each normal node will be locked at the difficulty chosen and can't be adjusted individually. However, each boss node will have the individual raid difficulty selector option if you want to experience a more difficult challenge and are not already at the highest difficulty. A new feature of both raid maps.
So basically, Omega doesn't have it. It's got it on the boss nodes, but that doesn't make much sense to me. The boss nodes were never the hardest thing in a raid, especially when you have your most powerful characters in the game available. So that's a little weird.
Is that bosses are now completely optional. There's a boss node for every member of your alliance, and boss nodes will not affect the completion percentage that your alliance.
That's cool to hear that there's a boss node for every member of the alliance. That means, and hopefully they do this for the Spotlight raid in the future, because not getting the boss node rewards always felt terrible, especially in the Spotlight raid right now, because like it's not uncommon for somebody to clear 2 or 3 and then one guy gets 1, and the boss nodes give so much better rewards than the normal nodes. Like it feels impactful over time.
Alliance can obtain. They are meant to be extra nodes with juicy rewards and bragging rights.
Now they say extra rewards and bragging rights, but I don't know that that's true, because it's always been the leaderboards always matters, and if you get extra points from the boss nodes, it feels required. So is that a good thing? I think it's a good change. I just don't think I think we're using the wrong terminology for it, because it's not optional, especially for alliances that push 100% or 70% or 90%. That's not optional. Because those are the people that are pushing the leaderboards, and the leaderboard points matter, especially as we roll into gear tier 20, if that's where it goes.
Rights for you. Before we move on, you might want to know what the requirements are for these new raid difficulties. As you can see on the screen, normal difficulty will have no restrictions.
I don't think those restrictions are a problem, though I am hesitant to upgrade some of those characters until we know more information. Purple ISO 1, most of my active roster is that. Purple ISO 3, that's a little more expensive, but most of my active roster is Purple ISO 2, and I'm sitting on a pile of it because I don't want to upgrade things that are not useful anymore. And I think this raid is going to force us to upgrade some stuff that we don't want to upgrade, but it's also going to not matter a whole bunch in the end, because we should be getting more of it. It should be becoming a more plentiful resource with G20 existing. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, I would just hoard. I wouldn't spend. I'd hoard Dryons, hoard Dry. So, Purple ISO 3 feels like it's just kind of the baseline now for a character. You take characters to G19, level 100, and you Purple ISO 2 or 3 them. I usually Purple ISO 2 them, and then hoard 3, and only do 3 on the characters that feel like they need it.
Difficulty 1 will only include trait restrictions. Difficulty 2 will require green ISO 5. Difficulty 3 will require blue ISO 3. Difficulty 4 will require purple ISO 1. And finally, difficulty 5 will require purple ISO 3. The Chaotic Storm raids will kick off on March 27th, so start preparing your roster now.
March 27th, that means it's next week. That also means we will probably get the first character of the Vigilante team either that week or the week after. So, and we will also probably see the reworks go live next week or the week after. So, and I would assume that it's probably the Vigilante team is going to be in a spot that's obnoxious. It's probably we can do 30% easily. And it's going to be very interesting if we all have our individual lanes. They could make that lane the raid very hard locked very easily. So that could be a very big problem. And it feels like they're very money hungry right now. And I don't think people caught that in the original watch through of this.
We're calling on all commanders to help us with this next feature, Global Milestones. In these events, all eligible commanders will be working together on a common goal to earn exciting rewards.
Hey, Marty.
We wanted to let you know that we'll be running a couple of test milestones before we officially kick off this new feature. So if you see something new, don't be alarmed. Some of these tests will be shorter than others, and you'll see they won't grant any meaningful rewards. This is intentional. We don't want anyone to feel like they missed out if they failed to log in during these tests. Expect a few tests in the upcoming weeks, but let's take a look at how global milestones work. You will see new events with the global tag in the milestone section. Our first official global milestone will kick off later this month and will be all about...
I'm excited for global milestones. They very much remind me of like World of Warcraft Gates of the Ahn'Qiraj, where you were working together on the server to unlock it. I'm a little nervous that it's going to be very... drops are on. I'm a little nervous that it's going to be very content locked. So we'll see how that goes. Like you have to play 18 matches of Crucible or you don't get full rewards, things like that. That kind of makes me a little nervous.
Imkron fragments to help in the Lalandra milestone. We will have more details to come soon, but prepare to work together to achieve these milestones. Push as hard as you can when these milestones appear, because you never know what could happen. Our final new feature to come soon is called the Command Center. Recently, we felt our milestone and event systems were in need of a visual overhaul, so we're bringing you the Command.
They are, because half the time we don't know what's actually in them. They're obnoxious to look at. Half of them are on their website, half of them are in game, half of them are feeding into each other. It makes it really complex to even know what's going on, and half the time there's math issues. So yeah, I 100% think they need a rework there. So let's see what it looks like.
Command Center. This will eventually be a hub for events happening in Marvel Strike Force. Let's take a look. We will be slowly rolling this out over the course of the next few months.
Those rewards stink. Hopefully that's not what we're gonna see. Hopefully, we're getting past this get orange gear and teal gear that's 5 years old. Like, I just don't understand their decision making there. So what do we have going on here? They have one called Big Spender. It looks like it just scrolls down. Interesting. Rewards, objectives. I mean, it looks nice, but
we want you to know that our intentions are to streamline the experience for you regarding the events to make them easier to understand and view. This will also play a big role in our upcoming age to allow for easy access to what is happening in the game. Additionally, the Command Center will introduce more objective-based milestones, giving you clearer objectives.
So it's going to have daily, weekly, monthly flash events. I don't know what the star is. And then there's one that looks like a ticket. Do you have to buy that to even get access to it? That's interesting. Daily, spend cores. Spend 1,000 cores for a green ISO. I'm in. That sounds terrible. Spend daily gold for 10 cores. That's 500,000 gold. That's a lot.
And meaningful rewards as you engage with the events. That's it for now, Commanders. Our team is incredible.
That is another area where they could be trying to monetize, and it could be scary. They didn't really tell us a lot. After seeing the paywall fest that is Overpower, I'm not 100% sold on that either. But those features I think are in better shapes. I think the Omega raid coming out is going to be fun. New raid teams are always fun. We'll see how that goes. I like the individual lane idea. I think that's kind of cool. I think the command center idea and the global nodes is great, but I think there's things that could make them feel awful. It makes me kind of wonder if the game's kind of not in a good place right now, is financially. It feels like they are squeezing, especially after seeing that overpower system. It feels like we're squeezing really hard, and I'm concerned.
Incredibly excited for all the upcoming features in patch 9.0, and we hope you enjoy them too. Thanks for joining us on this.
I enjoyed everything except the overpower system. I think everything has a chance to be moderate to okay if the overpower system doesn't exist.
This episode of Strike Spot.
So I'm overall not too dissatisfied with this. I do want to talk about the Starjammers next and that video. So let's go ahead, get this one uploaded, and then we'll start working on the Starjammers.